All right, guys, we are going to explore some more about multiplying a two-digit number, two-digit, by one-digit number. And today we're going to use base 10 blocks again. Um, the base 10 blocks help us understand how we can multiply that two-digit number because we also understand the distributive property. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this problem 6 times 23, which essentially means the same thing as 6 times 23, or 6 groups of 23, or 6 by 23. All of these things we're very familiar with using area models and arrays. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make 6 groups of 23. So I put one group of 23. So I've got 1, 10, and another 10, 21, 22, and 23. And I'm going to go ahead and just repeat all of that 6 times. Oops, looks like I've got a few I got to squeeze in there. So I line them up into a nice array. I'm going to count to make sure that I do have 6 groups of 23. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 groups. Let's go ahead and label that side of my array as 6. And I've got 10, 20, and 23. So I could label that as 23. And we're going to go ahead and keep that blue. And that 23 would go right there. But again, we want to decompose this 23 because if you look right here, we could probably count that up pretty quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decompose this 23, and we're going to decompose it into 20 plus 3. And I can see that this is 10, 20, so 20 across right here to the green. And then 1, 2, 3, we'll label that side as 3. So now essentially what we've done is we've created 2 additional math problems. We have 6 times 20 here. Sorry about the dog barking, he's going crazy, that's Tinkerbell. So we have 6 times 20. I have 6 down and I have 20 across. And then for right here, I still have 6 down, but this time it's 3 across for my smaller rectangle. So I'm going to go ahead and bring 6 times 3 right here. And you'll see 6 times 3, that equals 18. We know that. We're going to solve 6 times 20. If I take this 20 and I decompose it into 2 times 10, I know that 6 times 2 is 12. And if I multiply that by the 10 that's left, I would get 120. So essentially what I'm left with is 120, the area of this rectangle, plus 18, the area of this small rectangle. So I have to combine those together. My math problem would be 120 plus 18, which equals 138. So 6 times 23 equals 138. So that's the example of how to use base 10 blocks to solve a 2-digit by 1-digit multiplication problem. Again, we used base 10 blocks, and we used the distributive property when we decompose 23 into 20 plus 3. Here we have 20 plus 3. And then we multiplied 6 times 20 plus 6 times 3. That gave us the total area. Essentially, I can make a model without drawing all of those little squares or using the base 10 blocks. This is something that I might draw. I know that this entire side is 23, and I know that I can decompose 23 into 20 and 3. And I know the side that I'm not going to be distributing is 6. So now that I've drawn that out, all I have to do is find the area of each rectangle. We already said that we can do 6 times 20 to get the area. So I can write that right in there. 6 times 20 equals 120. Then if I do 6 times 3, we know that that's 18. Now all I have to do is to combine them. 120 plus 18 equals 138. Again, this is the way that you would do it if you didn't have base 10 blocks or you feel like you're ready to progress to just going ahead and drawing the area model. All right, so that brings us to our next problem. On this problem, you're actually going to build the problem with me. So you're going to build a model using base 10 blocks, and you should have the sheet of paper ready that is especially for this problem. It should say multiplying two-digit numbers using base 10 blocks, and you should see that number 1 right there is 6 times 34. So make sure your name and number are on there, and we'll get started. First of all, I think it's important to note that if this problem had said 34 times 6, I definitely don't want to make 34 groups of 6. That would take forever. And so I know that I can use the commutative property and that these two factors can trade places in multiplication and the product will remain the same. So I'm going to put 6 groups of 34. So right now I'd like you to pause the video if you need to, and you're going to make 6 groups of 34 like this. Remember, we're going to lay them out horizontally. So I have 10, 20, 30. I'm going to go ahead and lay them out just like this. And then I need my ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, because we are decomposing 34 into tens and ones, like so. Go ahead and group those together, like that. So here I have my one group of 34. I'm going to go ahead and make the rest of my 34. Pause the video if you need to. Okay, so you can see that I have my 10, 20, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, and I have that 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you should have the same thing. And I'm going to go ahead and label this as 6. 6 can go here. And 34 is going to go along the top. Just like this, like our original problem. So now here we have our representation of 6 groups of 34. And we can see easily, I've changed my color to red because it's easier to see. These green blocks represent the 30s, 10, 20, 30, 10, 20, 30. We have 6 groups of 30. We've decomposed our 30 and 4. So I have 6 groups of 30 here. So I'm going to go ahead and label this as 30. And this is my groups of 4. So I'll go ahead and label that as 4. And then we have 6 times 30. That would be our multiplication problem to figure out that part. And I have 6 times 4. So now I want you to go ahead and solve those math problems. Pause the video, unpause it when you're ready to check your answer. So I know that when solving 6 times 30, I can decompose 30 into 3 times 10. 6 times 3 I know is 18. And when I multiply 18 by that remaining 10, I get 180. 6 times 30 is 180. 6 times 4 is a known fact. You can count by 4s. We can do 6 times 2 and double it. That equals 24. So now what I've got to do is combine that. So I've got to combine 180 plus 24. And that will give us our product. So 180 plus 24. Well, I know 180 plus 2 tens is going to be 200. 200 plus that 4 is going to give me 204. So we have solved this math problem. I'm going to go ahead and move this up here because the next thing I want you to do is to go ahead and draw an area model without using the base 10 blocks. So right below that spot where you filled in the multiplication problems for your solution to 6 times 34, there's a blank space for you to fill in an area model that we're going to draw. So the first thing that you're going to need to do is draw a rectangle that's approximately this long. I'm going to go ahead and use blue, I guess, because that's the color that came out. So I've got my rectangle here, here. Go ahead and fill your shape or your blank space on your paper, just like that. And then we're going to label it on the sides. I want you to label it as 6. I'm going to keep blue there. 6 goes on the side here. And the other side is going to be 34 because we're making 6 groups of 34. Okay, so 34, I'm going to move this guy out of the way. Let's put him right up here. And let's put this guy right up here. Just move those out of the way. So here we have 34. So again, we're going to decompose 30 into 30 plus 4. So if I were to decompose this, I'd probably draw it about right here since I have the model. And now I know that this section is now 30. And let me make it a tiny bit smaller. We have 30 here. And then I have 4 in the other section because we decomposed it into 30 plus 4. See, we still have 34. It's 30 plus 4. So now I'm going to go ahead and find the area of here. I know I can do 6 times 30. So 6 times 30. We already know the answer to that. There's no sense in drawing that out again. It equals 180. Can place that right in there. And for 6 times 4, I already know that 6 times 4 equals 24. I'm going to shrink this one down because it probably won't fit. Probably still won't fit. And I'm going to stick that right in there. Now I know that I can combine this area with this area, and it's going to give me the total area, which is also the product of 6 times 34, 204. Get ready because the next problem I want you to do on your own. It's actually 2 more problems. You are welcome to work with a partner if you'd like, but make sure that you show all of your work and thinking. When you're done, be sure to put your paper into the math basket and move on to your next station. Remember, you can always go back and watch this video again if you need reminders.